Welcome, and thank you for joining for another whiskey review today. We are going to take a look at the Balvenie Ton 1401 Batch 9. 49.3% ABV, which is cask or batch strength, depending on how you would like to word it. I think I'm pretty much saying the same thing, but to let you know what I mean by that is this particular whiskey doesn't come with an age statement. What it does come with is 14 cask numbers on it. It tells you what type of casks. So if you're familiar with my reviews on the 1509, these Balvenie Ton series basically will mix certain casks together to make a batch or a blend, usually always at cask strength or batch strength. This particular 1401 Batch 9 is 11 traditional casks, which I am guessing is ex-bourbon matured, and then 3 sherry casks. So basically they took these casks at various ages, mixed them together to come up with hopefully what's a fantastic whiskey. Now this 1401 came before the 1509. I've done a few of those reviews for you. These 1401s just use less casks, where the 1509s use 20 to 30 something casks. These ones, the 1401s, usually kept it around 10, 12, 15 casks. And from what I've heard, they use a little bit older whiskeys, at least in these initial releases. So again, this one is Batch 9, which was a US release. US got Batch 3, Batch 6, and Batch 9, if I'm not mistaken, where the other batches were either UK releases, distillery only, or travel retail. So what they're going for here is some of the best of Balvenie. As far as the casks that did the best, usually, or from what I understand, these are all casks that are pretty much older whiskeys, at least 20 something years old, maybe even stretching to up to 40. And where I'm getting that from is, I know they originally said in the first few batches there was whiskey from the 1960s in them. So don't know exactly what the age is of all the whiskeys in here, but we're gonna get into it and at least tell you what I think about it. All right, so brought you plenty of Balvenies. I think this is either my 12th or 13th Balvenie review. Speyside Distillery, known as a sherried, but really a honeyed whiskey compared to other whiskey distillers. So if you know whiskey, Scotch whiskey, you can probably pick up Balvenie anywhere. 12-year-old, 15, maybe the 21 Portwood, they're readily available any place you go. Incredible, sweet, rich, honeyed nose. So much honey. If you love Balvenie and you love honey, this is the best version of the honey in Balvenie I've ever nosed. It's just dark forest honey, old honey, just rich and dense. And I'm still talking about the honey. It's almost as strong as any peat smeller or any heavy sherry note. It's just so dense. It takes a few times going back in to even get past it. But then after that honey note, you get your traditional sherry notes, figs, dates, a lot of vanilla in this one as well. And I would say, now like a mint's coming on. Lemongrass maybe. That mint just kind of comes back, maybe with a little bit of sage, some type of herbal note. Almost like an herb garden. Then it gets sweet again. That's just covering vanilla. A little bit of smokiness from the oak casks themselves. Caramel. Almost like a melted caramel popcorn smell. Wow, incredible nose. It keeps changing. I mean, it is a pleasure to nose. I mean, I could sit here and I could smell this whiskey for 40 minutes. There's so much here and it keeps moving. Now that sage with lemon. And everything's very rich and very dense, no doubt because of the high ABV. I mean, 49.3 is a good ABV, but when they haven't added any water to it, it takes on a certain heft to it that really drives through. And then, The 1509s don't smell and taste like this 1401, but at least it gives you cask strength Balvenie, which is a really nice, beautiful, strong, rich honey smell that if you're a fan of this distillery, I would think you gotta try. All right, first sip time. The sherry and the honey initially just share the experience, and they're both dominating on the palate. The ABV really driving those flavors home. Kind of in the mid palate, you pick up lemon again, lemon bordering on orange. It's a zesty lemon and a zesty orange though. Very alive for an older whiskey. A lot of times people think, 25, 30, 35-year-old whiskeys don't have a lot of pop to them as far as like flavor. But man, this one is not one of those whiskeys. The flavors are really exploding on the palate. Now, it's like as far as the linger goes, there's still that honey, there's still those sherry notes, but now it's like strawberries and maybe raspberry, strawberry. I get those mixed up sometimes. Yeah, probably raspberries, a little tartar than a strawberry. So yeah, I would say raspberry. And then here it comes again, just sugar and vanilla. And then a nice little finish of mint. Whew, I tell you what, the nose and the palate on this one really evolves the entire time. Really, really impressive whiskey. I actually had the batch 6 before, and it was a richer taste than this, richer sherry. I think the cask maturation was pretty close to even on batch 6, I believe, as far as sherry compared to bourbon cask matured. Now this one's heavy on the bourbon cask matured. Again, 11 of the 14 casks are ex-bourbon casks or traditional casks, and only 3 are sherry. So that's the reason for kind of the medium caramel color. It's a little lighter, but you really get that beautiful Balvenie honey in those traditional oak casks. And then kind of reminiscent of like the 15-year-old single berry. I'm getting like a little bit of a kiwi taste just right on the end too. What that fruit note is doing is, first I said strawberry, then I said raspberry, so it kind of went tart, and now it's going to kiwi, so it's even lighter than a strawberry now. It's just moving back and forth. Lemon's still coming up. Just wow, excellent whiskey. Now these whiskeys, I never saw them when they were released. I think in 2013. I never really saw them around. I think here in the Columbus area, I think they were about $350 when they originally came out, but good luck finding them for that, these days. This is a very pricey whiskey because they didn't make a ton of them, and this 1401 series is a little more valuable, or at least thought of higher than the 1509s, probably because of the fewer casks they use, but it's really a step up as far as a whiskey experience. All right, so I added a few drops of water. Let's see if the water did anything, and when I say a few, I mean about 1. Okay, so the honey note is a little bit more subdued with that drop of water, but the vanilla is far more prominent. Vanilla and sugar in the raw. Lemon's still there. Caramel's still there. Mint and sage. Herb garden. And the honey's just a complement with water. More than a complement, it's a companion of all those flavors. Probably a better way to say it is companion. All right, last sip time, give it a score. With water, a little more chocolate coming up. Maybe from the sherry's cask, a little fruitier, a little more dark fruit. I think figs. Figs covered with white chocolate maybe. And sugar on top of that drenched on there. So sweet, such a sweet, sweet whiskey. Sweet, but still a good hefty ABV. And it just dances on the tongue. I mean, it's popping. It tastes, the way the flavors are driven, you almost think it's a higher ABV, 55, 57, 58. Not to say that there's an alcohol burn to it, because there's none. This is a soft whiskey in a lot of ways because it is a Balvenie. But then in other ways, it's so alive and so aggressive. Wow, just excellent whiskey. This is the only bottle I've had of the 1401s for myself in my own personal collection, and I've been told this is the least of the ton 1401s. Of all the batches, this is probably the least highly regarded, and if that's the case, that makes me happy, because there are better Balvenies to taste. This is easily the best Balvenie I've ever tried. And I brought you guys the 25 single barrel, 21, 17, 17 peated. Have I done the 30? I don't know, but I've had the 30. This is a better whiskey than all of them, including the Ton 1509 batch 4 and batch 5. So if you can get your hands on this and can get it for a reasonable price, and reasonable for this bottle would be maybe $700 or $800, definitely say go for it if you can afford it. And if you're a big fan of the distillery, which I am, this is really the best of Balvenie, at least so far from what I've been able to taste. Maybe the 40's better. Love to try it sometime. The other 1401s, perhaps they have a more sherry richness to it, which again would intrigue me, and I would love to get my hands on a bottle. So if this is one that you can get a hold of, I'm sure you'll be impressed with it as I am. As far as a whiskey score, I'm really trying to judge whiskeys quite a bit harsher these days, so I'm going to give this a 92 out of 100. What today that means to me, after 200 some whiskey reviews and comparisons, is a 92 is a bottle I would pay at least $500 for. So, if I'm at a 90 or above, that's a bottle of whiskey that probably should be worth a few $100s. If I'm at 91 or 92, like that's a $400 or $500 bottle, in my opinion, as far as the quality based on what's out there. This is absolutely every bit of that. Maybe 93, where again I would pay $750, $800 for this. It is that impressive of a whiskey. Hope you think so as well, if you're able to try it. Until next time, I want to thank you for joining for another whiskey review, and I wish you all happy drinking.